Guys, fun fact, this chair is broken. The back is supposed to be up here, but it's broken. So now every time I sit in this chair, I get back pain. So fun. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some of my interview tips that I have learned. And I recently had my first nursing interview, and I learned a lot from the interview. I thought maybe I could share with you guys, so that's what this video is about. If you want to learn some more, keep watching. First things first, I'm going to share some tips that I actually found online that I wrote down ahead of time to help me with the interview process. I found like the best tips from the websites that I went on. So these are some of the tips. Number 1, bring your resumes. That's what I did. I brought my resumes. The website actually said that it's best if you can print them on high quality paper. I didn't have any high quality paper, and I didn't have time to go buy any, but I think that would help a lot. Yeah, I would say bring your resumes. They didn't ask me for mine. There's 3 people interviewing me. One of them had my resume, the other 2 did not, but I was happy that I had them so I can offer it to them, and I think that helps a lot, so they could just kind of overlook your resume and your qualifications and everything. Another tip is to arrive 10 minutes early. Now, the problem with this one is that I wanted to do that, but that's not what happened. I wanted to actually get there 15 minutes early, but I actually got on the floor 6 minutes before my scheduled interview, which is not bad, but still not 15 minutes. I was kind of stressed out about that, but it actually worked out because they were still interviewing someone else when I got on the floor. They didn't even notice that I was late. But that's not always going to be the case, so I think really try to manage your time well. I even drove to the hospital a few days before the interview to see how long it would take to get there, and I still ended up getting there late. The interview was at 9:30, so there was like traffic on the highway, so that's probably why. But do your best to get there early, because it really, I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but it really helps to show that you're punctual and take it seriously. Also, I forgot to say earlier that, yeah, I am talking about my nursing interview, but as it was brought out to me before, this actually can apply to any job that you're looking for, but I will hit on some points that are specific towards nursing, but a lot of this could apply to anyone. Another tip is to turn off your phone, which I did. Imagine getting a call while you're in the interview. That's unprofessional. Another tip is to use your research to break the ice. Definitely before the interview, you want to research the company, know what their values are and what they stand for and stuff like that. And I did that. Surprisingly enough, it never really came up in the interview. You can definitely bring it up at any time, but for me, it just kind of didn't. My hospital in particular, they focused on compassionate and quality care, and they like the diverse environment, which actually I did hit on the diversity a little bit. Oh, and also they said that they are built on learning and development, and I also talked about that too. So I guess I did talk about it. But yeah, you just want to see what they value. It's really, honestly, usually when I hear the word research, I feel like it takes a long time, but I just decided to do it, and I was like, oh, this didn't take long at all. So it's really quick. I hate research, I know, but it's really quick. The next tip is to ask thought-provoking questions. I did this, so I'm gonna go into the questions that I asked them. One thing to keep in mind that I saw somewhere is that not only are they interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them, because it's where you're gonna work, and you want to work somewhere that you feel comfortable or somewhere that you want to work. That actually even helps with your nerves, because you realize that it's not just like just pressure on you. It's just a conversation between people, you know. One question I asked, is there anything on my resume that you would like to that you would like me to clarify? And they said no. I also asked them, what do you enjoy most about working here? That was one question that I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to ask them. But I'm actually really happy I did, because it allowed me to really understand the environment. I guess it helps it to make it more personable. But yeah, I think that's a good question. Just like get it out there. It's kind of an awkward question a little bit, but once you ask it, it's actually a really good question. The last question, oh, actually 2 more questions. The other question is, what is the typical patient to nurse ratio? Which is a really good question, because you gotta know how hectic your schedule is gonna be. And for my hospital, I think they said 1 to 5, and it doesn't go over 1 to 6, which is I think the most in Florida. I don't know. And also the last thing I asked is, how would you prefer me to follow up after this interview? And they gave me a card, and I was able to, actually didn't even have to follow up. They called me. But I think it just shows that you are excited about the position. So that's a good question. The next tip is to brag. Now, I don't think I bragged. I didn't make myself seem incompetent, but I didn't brag. I think that's kind of a hard thing to do, but you could probably do that. Another tip is to reinforce the positive. You know, sometimes they ask you a question that kind of just, it might be a negative situation, and I think at the end of describing the situation, you want to reiterate the positives of it, and that will end it on a positive note rather than the negative note. So that's a good tip. The last tip I found is to close the interview by saying this: I researched your company and I was very excited about this interview. I appreciate the time you have taken, and I'm positive about my ability to add value to this job. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't say this, but I did say something along the lines of, thank you so much for your time. That's it. So those are the tips that I found online. Going into more tips, so I said before, research the company ahead of time. You also want to look at typical questions that they will ask for your position. So if you're doing nursing, typical nursing questions, but if you're doing something else, typical whatever questions. And you want to find a bunch of questions, and you want to also prepare what you're gonna say for each question. I wrote down the questions, and I wrote down what I was gonna say, and I just kept practicing it over and over. One thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to necessarily say it word for word, because then you're gonna forget, but you just want to have a good idea of what your answer was. So that's what I did. I can show you right now. The blue is the questions, and then what's under it is my answers. So I prepared for a bunch of questions. I don't know if this is excessive or not. I don't think it is. I like to write things down. So obviously dress professionally. I think we all know that. If it wasn't Corona, we could shake their hands, but obviously it is, so we can't do that. Like I said earlier, remember that it's a conversation. Try not to make it just them asking you questions. Try to make it more of you asking questions and having conversation. That is definitely something that's hard for me personally, because I am socially anxious. So when meeting strangers, I have a hard time having conversations with them. I'm actually really thankful for the group of people who interviewed me, because they actually made me feel really comfortable. So I'm gonna get into my own personal experience, but you could search this up, but I'm gonna mention the questions that they asked me particularly. So these are the questions they asked me. So the floor that I was interviewing for was telemetry. Let me get some water, because I was interviewing for telemetry. So one of the questions they asked is, why do you want to work for telemetry? So you want to know why you're doing the position that you're doing. Another question is, describe a time that you went above and beyond for someone and you were appreciated for it. Now, this question threw me off track, because that was, out of all the questions I prepared, that was not one of them. out of all the websites I went on, I did not see that question anywhere. And then the next one was, describe a time of going above and beyond for a customer and not being appreciated. So I wasn't prepared for those, but I thought of something off the top of my head. They said, describe a time you worked as a group. I didn't write the whole question, so I'm kind of confused. Describe a time you worked as a group to accomplish a similar goal, something like that.
Something about working as a group.
I don't remember. I should have wrote down the whole thing. The next one was, what's your 5-year plan? The next one was, tell me about yourself. This is not in order. This is just what I remembered at the time. Anyway, and then they went into specific nursing questions which relate to the floor that I will be on. If you're doing telemetry, they might ask you these questions. So let's say you have a patient with chest pain, what would you do? Something like that. They described like the symptoms and then what you've already done and what the patient is complaining about, so you would have to figure out where to go from there. They asked me what meds would you give. They asked me what diagnostic procedures you would do, and they asked what would you do if you were asked to do a procedure that you're not comfortable with. The interview was going really well up until this point. But yeah, you might want to research some common scenarios that may occur on your floor and what you would do. So I'm gonna go into my personal experience. So as I mentioned, I was a little bit late. I am a very nervous person, like anxious person, especially like I said with social interactions with strangers. I was really nervous at the beginning. I know I wanted to try to make conversation as I was waiting for them to ask questions, but I couldn't because I was just so nervous. But yeah, I did my best. I just you know, said hi to everyone, couldn't shake anyone's hands. But so they asked the first question and I was like blah 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 blah, and then they asked the next question and I was blah 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 blah. And then I think by the third question I started to get comfortable because, like I said, the nurses that were interviewing me were really nice, made me feel really comfortable, and they started to relate to what I was saying, which made me feel even more comfortable. One thing that I would mention is that there were some questions that I didn't know the answer to, especially the medications. I am really bad with pharm. I was struggling trying to remember the meds. You know the worst? Like one of the questions, I knew the med, but I didn't want to say it because I thought it was wrong, but I ended up being right. So you never know. That's why I said, you know, try to really research. I did not at all, did I? For some reason I did not at all like prepare specific nursing questions, like you know, just scenarios. I don't know why not. Even though I didn't know the answer to all the questions, I still got the job, which I'm happy about. I was also really honest in the interview. I don't know if, I mean, being honest is always good, but I don't know if sharing too much is a good idea in interviews. So with the med questions, I was struggling a little bit, and I admitted to the nurses that pharm was like one of my weak points. Instead of me just being like I don't know, I just decided to say that, because it's never good to say I don't know.
Trust me, I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way.
So I just decided to be honest. I really don't know if that was the best thing to do, but I felt like it was. I don't know. I think with a nursing interview, maybe mostly if you're a new grad, it's okay not knowing the answer to every question. Yeah, so it actually worked out pretty well. I've been recording for, ooh, look at that lady. Yes. I've been recording for 22 minutes, but that is everything for this video. I hope you guys learned something from this, and I hope you guys appreciate the new setup, because I'm trying to change it up a little bit every now and then. Make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.